Live 89.5, your island, your station.
And a very good afternoon to you. Nick Anthony here with Going Green, show number 98. Well, there are 7 primary direct drivers of extinction. Sounds an unusual way you're asking to start the show. However, it's all the result of human behavior. Habitat loss through deforestation is the first. Global pollution, of which we increasingly hear more about. Global climate change, which is becoming much more recognized as a real threat in the short term. Introduction of invasive species, more of impact perhaps on local oceans and local ecosystems, and not so easy to spot. The over-exploitation of resources, and above all, the factors that perhaps magnify all of the others, human overpopulation and consumerization. Well, taking a few quiet days to review, study, look at the past, and try to find ways to better prepare ourselves for the future is a symposium taking place on Kokud Island, which is in the southeast of Thailand, down near the Cambodian border, at Soneva Kiri, which is a beautiful resort, and it's a resort managed by Soneva Resorts based out of Bangkok. Soneva are very well known globally for running some of the best eco-hotels on the planet. Soneva as a group is a sustainable luxury resort operator, and they live and breathe by responsible business. This practice is called the slow life. It's really a set of principles to live and work by. As an individual, we can make a difference to the world, as well as help one another to better appreciate and to love life. Pavan Sukhdev, one of the members of the 30 individuals that are at this symposium, made a Twitter yesterday which I thought encapsulated what all of us are thinking and a few of us are saying. He says we, as an environmentalist, in fact I would say all people on the planet, are a time bomb diffusing squad. We must change the major direction of resource use by 2020, effectively, if we are to avert a catastrophe on a global scale. Arnfinn Ines is the Chief Sustainable Officer at Soneva, and he's been on the show, the Going Green show, last year. Arnfinn is Phuket-based and has a great hand in many of the programs that Soneva are running, including looking after the foundation that has launched world water schemes, has launched global reforestation programs, and is very active, particularly in education programs. Arnfinn keeps a blog, and taking a page out of his blog, I'll just read a few comments about what this symposium is really all about. Held for three days, 7th to the 10th of November. This is the 4th symposium that's been held. It's very well known now for bringing together some of the most influential environmentalists on the planet to lay the foundations for some of the most dynamic sustainability initiatives in the natural world. So it's inevitable that the 2013 symposium, a Slow Life Foundation event sponsored by the Soneva Resorts, will generate a new set of ideas and solutions during 3 days and nights of discussions covering sustainable tourism, marine and water conservation, energy security, and threatened biodiversity. Drawing on this year's theme of innovation through collaboration, a specially invited group of just 30 business leaders, scientists, NGOs, renowned thinkers and policymakers will immerse themselves in a series of plenaries, panels and workshops to explore opportunities for both the business and philanthropic sectors to increase their positive impact on the environment. Jonathan Porritt, who's founder-director of the Forum for the Future and co-director of the Prince of Wales Business and Sustainability Programme, chairs the 2013 symposium. He's an eminent writer, broadcaster and commentator on sustainable development. He also advises governments, royalty and businesses on the environment and all matters of sustainability. Well, Jonathan was at the Slow Life Symposium in 2011 when the Whole World Water campaign was conceived. Whole World Water is uniting the hospitality and tourism industry and eliminating branded bottled water in favour of selling triple-filtered source water, with a portion of revenues contributing to clean water initiatives around the world.
Drive with Jason Wilder.
Britney Spears.
I'm sorry about that. That was a mistouch. Jonathan was there when they launched this whole World Water campaign, and it's interesting that the systems that Soneva are using around the world for their own efforts at stopping plastic water bottles and instead using reusable glass bottles is a system that was devised here in Phuket and actually managed by a Phuket-based gentleman. So out of Thailand, we do have innovative pilot programs that are taking a lead around the world in some of these initiatives. He was also at the Slow Life Symposium in 2010 when the government of the Maldives and the Blue Marine Foundation pledged to work together to protect Maldivian waters in a way that is compatible with and complementary to the country's sustainable fisheries. The event is now in its second day, and when I come back from the break, I'm going to play a short clip from day one of this symposium, talking a little bit about some of the people that are there and some of their aims, ideals, and wishes for, indeed, a better future. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. This is Going Green, show number 98, and I'm talking about the Slow Life Symposium, which is taking place this weekend at Koh Kud Island, down near the Cambodian border.
The 80s, 90s, noughties, and now. Phuket's Live 89.5.
Welcome back. Nick Anthony here. We're talking about the Slow Life. Slow Life is a responsible business practice set up by Soneva, who's a world-leading sustainable Bangkok-based luxury resort operator. They live and breathe this concept and this set of principles, and it stands for S as in sustainable, L as in local, buy local products, O as in use organic produce, and W, have wellness and good health in both body and mind. The life stands for learning. Nothing comes easily, and of course it must be practiced. Inspiring requires good leadership and strong ideals. Fun, it relates to Phuket, to Sanook, love Phuket and enjoy this bountiful and this very beautiful island. And experiences, hands-on teamwork, learn by doing it at home, at work, and at play. These principles, adopted individually and communicated on a broader scale through the resort foundation and through the resort education practices, helps to make all of us a better place, and indeed helps to make Phuket a better place. So lead by example, educate others, encourage kids, and lobby support local governments in its change of thinking and its embrace of sustainability. Let's take a listen to day one summary yesterday from the Slow Life Symposium that's at Koh Kud Island down near the Cambodian border. It has an amazing group of people there that are talking about these large-scale initiatives around the world, and we're very privileged that they've come to Thailand and are addressing them here in our fine country. Let's take a listen. This is the Slow Life Symposium, a summary of day one. No, I'm going to come back to that segment in just a moment. I'm going to move on from the Soneva and try and fix that issue. The second part of the program, talking about the same things and in a similar vein, is there was 50 Buddhist monasteries in the Indian capital of New Delhi yesterday and today, and these representatives are there to discuss freshwater conservation and preservation of the fragile ecosystem in the high Himalayan ranges and the Tibetan Plateau. It links into this discussion for Soneva and the discussion taking place down in Koh Kud on sustainability, as the Tibetan spiritual leader who's likely to replace the Dalai Lama when he passes this life. His name is Ogyen Trinley Dorje. He's a young gentleman, only 28 years old. But his comment is that the Buddhist value of contentment could and should play a role in preserving the environment by countering consumerism, which is, of course, exhausting the Earth's resources. The studies from this Tibetan spiritual leader show that the entire world faces an environmental emergency. But in the case of Tibet and all of Asia, this is a very immediate emergency. Speaking to VOA in New Delhi, he said, "Among particular concerns, I think the unprecedented amount of development in Tibet is causing serious pollution of water sources and also, of course, the melting of the glaciers and permafrost caused by climate change are immediate source of threat to Tibet." Tibetan water, and therefore to all of Asia, which gets much of its water from the Tibetan plateau. We've talked about this issue a number of times on the Going Green show, how Pakistan in particular is going to be cut off from water coming out of the Himalayas. We've looked at how the issues of water potentially are going to strike global wars around the world of major problems. And he's in New Delhi for this 5-day conference on fresh water, talking about how the conference indeed can promote the problems that they're facing, such as the desertification of grasslands, the drying up of lakes and river systems, and the dislocation of pastoral nomads, particularly in the Tibetan plateau and other Himalayan regions. The Buddhist monks and nuns are being taught how to protect local water sources and how to recharge groundwater using techniques like rainwater harvesting. Organizers hope they will go home to create awareness in local communities and also get the message across to monasteries in Tibet, with whom they often have connections. Tenzin Norbu, who's a director of the Environment and Development in the Central Tibetan Administration in Dharamsala, said that when they go back, they should respect the value of water. Since most of these are from the Himalayan area, which is connected to the Tibetan plateau, they should know the importance of the place where they came from, so that they can also create local awareness on how important it is to protect the Himalayan glaciers. In New Delhi, Dorje has also compared the relationship between Tibet and India, where Buddhism originated, to that of a mother and child. Speaking through a translator, he called on Indians to retain that bond. What is of great importance is in the present is that the people of India recognize the tremendous profundity and the ancient source of their connection with Tibet. This connection is not superficial, and it's not simply political. It's environmental, cultural, and it's a connection on the level of the heart that is very, very ancient. So it's important that as many people as possible come to understand the depth of this connection and understand that for Tibetans who have left Tibet, such as the Dalai Lama and countless others, India has been our soul and our only place of hope and refuge. As we said before, that he hopes that the Buddhist value of contentment could play a role in preserving the environment by countering consumerism, which is exhausting the Earth's resources. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anth. I'll be back with the Going Green show, and we'll try and come back with that clip talking about the Soneva Sustainability Workshop, which is taking place in Kokud.
The 80s, 90s, noughties, and now. Phuket's Live 89.5.
And welcome back. Nick Anthony here on Going Green, show number 98. I've been talking about a slow life. It's been a bit of a tricky show. We've had a little technical issue, but we're back online with it. Slow life is really a way of living and a way of life by the Soneva group that they are promoting around the world. And it's based, as the terminology says, on really slowing things down. Let's take a quick listen at day one from that event. It's taking place down in Kokud, a small island near the Cambodian border. An amazing, beautiful resort, very self-contained. They bottle their own water, very good with recycling and composting, was built sustainably. And there are 30 people at this symposium for 3 days, which is their fourth symposium, and they're discussing big picture ideas. Take a listen. This is taken off for YouTube. Slow Life Symposium is a channel, or you can also follow me at Indigo Nick on Twitter, or you can go to myseek.org, which is a local CSO, civil service organization, works to bring together the community, business, the government, and NGOs together for a better future. And on that, you'll see today's link for the radio show, myseek.org. But first, let's take a listen to Slow Life Symposium. No, I'm sorry. Again, we've got no joy on that particular link. I'm going to go now, instead of talking about Soneva and a summary of that, we're going to talk about a couple of events during the week. One of which is on the international news. Scientists in Australia have expressed surprise and delight on Thursday after a new humpback dolphin species was identified, actually off northern Australia. Genetic mapping was able to single out an animal not previously known to science. A global team led by the US-based Wildlife Conservation Society made the discovery after examining almost 200 dead dolphins and tissue specimens from live animals across to 4 Atlantic, Indian, and Indo-Pacific Ocean areas where humpbacks are known to live. You heard just a few moments ago on VOA News about 750 dolphins that have washed up since the middle of this year due to a virus. So dolphins are under threat from all sorts, whether it be plastic ingestion, killing in Japan, and more about that in a moment, or indeed being stolen for aquariums around the world. But this discovery is quite exciting, as they have found that at least 4 species now exist within this particular genus. Australia's Flinders University study team members have said it's been long debated that local humpbacks were very distinct from their more distant cousins, but there'd been insufficient evidence until now to support the hypothesis. Well, just as we're discovering new species of dolphins, the Japanese continue to slaughter dolphins in the southern port of Taiji. They slaughter them ostensibly for meat, but largely it's a commercial operation that steals dolphins out of the wild and sells them to aquariums around the world. Last week, we'd been reporting that for almost 1 month, the Japanese had been unsuccessful at catching dolphins. However, this last week, 3 days in a row, unfortunately, the Japanese have been hunting and successfully killing dolphins. Just on Friday, after a long fight of 6 hours, a family of 9 Riso dolphins lost their battle to the barbaric killers of Taiji, Japan. Once trapped within the confines of the cove, the hypocritical trainers joined the killers, who together selected 4 pod members for captivity. The lone baby of the pod was trapped within nets on the killing shore, and along with those who were selected for captivity, watched and listened as the 4 remaining pod members were ruthlessly slaughtered in front of them. After the killing was concluded, the baby was split from both of his or her living and lifeless family members and dumped alone out to sea, where it will not survive. The actions this week continue to show just how little culture and humanity play into the slaughter and capture of these dolphins in Taiji. Every year between September the 1st and March the 31st, the Taiji fishermen are either slaughter or captive these beautiful dolphins at a great profit. And indeed, they're allowed to take over 2,000 cetaceans from 7 different species every year. Includes over 130 white-sided dolphins, 450 striped dolphins, 557 bottlenose dolphins, 400 pantropical, 265 rissos, 137 short-finned, and 70 false killer whales. When you take into account the babies that are released and that will die, and the other impact, the total amount is well over 2,000 dolphins. The controversial dolphin hunts, which were documented and questioned in the Academy Award-winning documentary The Cove, are monitored by the Cove Monitors, part of the Save Japan Dolphins and the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. Last week, you will have heard me talk about a Blackfish, which was a new documentary released and actually played unusually on CNN about killer whales in captivity, in this case in America, in SeaWorld in San Francisco. And there has been some excellent follow-up from that documentary. Plenty of publicity, lots of it very negative, obviously, for SeaWorld. And in particular, one good article came out saying that it's basically public relations 101. And in SeaWorld's case, spin like you've never spun before. SeaWorld indeed brands itself as an institution that values conservation, education, and research. The lady that wrote this said that, like many people, I bought into that message, but the facts presented in the film are hard to contest. Have I been living under a boulder? I sat in my living room feeling ashamed and ignorant. These practices have been going on for nearly 30 years, and I'm only catching wind of it now. I watched in shock, in sadness, and in outrage, but I suspect a lot of people reacted precisely as I did. The volume of Twitter posts complaining at Blackfish, followed by scathing criticism, has dominated the web for the last week, and the flurry of social media activity suggests that a new generation of people are learning about these atrocities for the first time. On October the 24th, CNN premiered Blackfish, a documentary film directed by Gabriella Cowperthwaite that raises questions about the multi-billion-dollar industry of keeping killer whales which are orcas in captivity. The film focuses on the deaths and near-deaths of several whale trainers, but places particular emphasis on Dawn Branchow, who was killed by an orca named Tilikum in 2010. I caught the encore presentation by accident and decided to watch because I love animals. I assumed the film would present new research findings on the species. I suspected I'd learn where orcas mate in the wild, gain some insight into their behaviors, and hopefully see footage of a baby whale blissfully swimming with its family. The last thing I expected was a portrait of SeaWorld as an ethically devoid corporation that systematically deceives and manipulates consumers and employees alike. I will not provide a full synopsis of the film, but without a doubt, you should see it for yourself on TV, Netflix, or through, indeed, iTunes. Many of the families and of the deceased trainers have weighed in with their stories, and they can provide far better analysis of the industry's issues. But one interesting observation is how much buzz Blackfish has created on social media, much of which condemns SeaWorld and signifies feelings of genuine disappointment, outrage, and betrayal. There was this collective gasp in response to Blackfish and the light it casts on SeaWorld. Indeed, audiences are now voicing their outrage and spreading the word. This backlash is really showing that for all of social media's vanity and narcissism, the media is also becoming a vehicle for social justice. Search Blackfish on Twitter and you'll find some pretty interesting reactions, such as, "Thank goodness I never supported SeaWorld. Close these places down." "Watching Blackfish on CNN. I will never take my kids to SeaWorld. Insane." "I highly recommend all of my fans to watch Blackfish and never go to SeaWorld again. Used to love that place. Beyond heartbroken." And the last comment was, "This film rips away the illusion of entertainment to reveal the cruel truth." Well, all over the world, dolphin shows, whale shows continue unabated. Japanese continue to steal baby dolphins out of the water for dolphinariums. And indeed, just this week in Pakistan, a traveling white whale was captivated from the Russian northern coastline and is now on display in Pakistan and will be moved around Pakistan, an example of the injustice for these beautiful marine mammals. Nick Anthony on Going Green Show number 98. Stay tuned. I've got some more interesting news coming up, but before then I've got Keen, Somewhere Only We Know, and Sean Colvin with Sunny Came Home.
The 80s, 90s, noughties, and now. Phuket Live 89.5.
Nick Anthony back with you on Going Green Show number 98. Just had word that, in fact, traffic is flowing again on the Patong Hill. There is a backup, and the bus is still there, but ambulances have now left the scene, and it is moving a little bit more easily. You can find an update now on the Phuket News TV and also on the Facebook page. Go to the phuketnews.com/TV/. Okay, let's keep going with the Going Green show. I have resolved my problem that I had trying to bring you a little bit of an update here on the Slow Life Symposium. So let's lead with that, and I'll come back and wrap up the international green news.
On behalf of the Slow Life Foundation and Soneva and the team here at Soneva Kiri, welcome. We're delighted and honoured to have you at this 4th Slow Life Symposium, and I look forward to 3 days of serious yet interesting discussions and interactions. The idea is really to get these great minds together to collaborate and come up with some great ideas, initiatives and practices, and we found that it actually works. So if you look at the 2011 symposium, the whole World Water Campaign was founded, where the idea behind that is to follow Soneva and Six Senses practice, which was to not use and sell branded waters in the hotels, but bottle on site, and then give 10% of water revenues to water charities. And of course that has various benefits. So apart from the obvious ecological benefits in terms of the absence of food miles and waste, it also creates an efficiency for the organization in terms of removes a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork to import water because you're recycling, and of course it's financially better off.
it's so wonderful to see these tangible results come from this very gathering, come from people actually going, that's a great idea, and that's a need that isn't being fulfilled, and it could benefit everything. We could have profits. We could have, people being able to survive. Actually, be able to live who were previously being poisoned, or dying from contaminated water, and bring those two things together. And it's good for all. It's a win-win-win.
Daryl Hannah.
Well, I'm part of the Sunniva Curie Slow Life Symposium because I'm here to try and find best practices for China very simply. I think a lot of people who are doing systemic changing projects are sort of afraid to come to China because it's practically undecipherable for people who haven't worked and lived in China. But China needs help. It's probably the place that everybody should be working in if we want to make large-scale systemic changes.
Peggy Liu. The first speaker was Sonu Shivdasani.
I think it's important that we embed sustainability into the DNA of every brand. I mean, we don't want to just talk about sustainability. It may just be boring. You have to create desirable products that are in essence sustainable. I think a product in the future that is not sustainable is not a great quality. So brands need to interpret sustainability in their way, integrate it and get the consumer excited about what they're doing, the products and services that they offer. That ultimately will then help to really change the way we consume, what we consume, how we behave towards nature and the society.
Jochen Zeitz, ex-Puma CEO.
Our industry is terribly resource hungry, and for us to survive on this planet, for our industry to survive, we need to look at models that are more resource friendly and really drive innovation through collaboration, which is really the theme of this year's symposium.
Sonu Shivdasani, the Soneva founder.
Collaborative species. It's in our DNA, and it's really helpful to be able to have these leaders from these different fields come together and share what they're doing and see how we can be helpful to each other, because that's the way to move forward. It just is, and it also is part of essential nature of our species.
Very good. Great event taking place there up at Soneva Kokiri, which is up near the Cambodian border. Amazing hotel, beautiful place, and a great place for this particular symposium, the fourth symposium they've been running. Let's take a quick look now at the balance of the international news, and I'm sorry for the delay in bringing you that copy. The Netherlands has asked an international court on Wednesday last week to order Russia to release 30 people detained during a Greenpeace protest against oil drilling in the Arctic. The tribunal refused to attend, the Moscow tribunal refused to attend, and the Dutch government is expecting a response by the 21st of November. Norway's 800 billion sovereign wealth fund is likely to divest from coal assets as the Labour Party now signals that the pension fund should withdraw from coal. This is actually quite exciting news, and the new right-wing government with Erna Solberg as Prime Minister will present their first white paper about this divestiture to Parliament next spring. Also in international news, in Washington, D.C., as part of their sustainability plan that was launched last year, they've announced that there'll be a ban on food and beverage containers made of plastic foam or polystyrene. The proposal, if approved, would ban foam containers on ecological grounds. Polystyrene foam, of which Styrofoam is one brand, is not fully biodegradable and makes up a significant portion of the trash found in local waterways, officials said. The other problem, of course, is that polystyrene, particularly in coastal communities such as we have here in Phuket, breaks down in the ocean into millions of little tiny white pieces. Now that, in turn, can take 100 years to actually properly biodegrade or degrade, as it is. However, during that process, those polystyrene blips get eaten by sea life, by birds, by fish even, and get digested and then absorbed into their bloodstream. So it's very poisonous, not only for the animals themselves, but also for us humans who eat those poisoned fish. Also looking at the US this week, they've announced that the Fish and Wildlife Service will destroy 6 tons of illegal African elephant ivory this next week that it's been stockpiling since the 1980s. Blaming increased demand for a devastating rise in poaching, largely organized by crime syndicates, members of a task force created by President Obama told reporters in a briefing at the National Press Building that they wanted to send a message of zero tolerance and reduce the appeal of ivory, rhinoceros horns, and other illicit animal products. By destroying our domestic stocks of ivory, we send a very clear signal these are illegally traded products should not be perceived as items of value. Robert Dreyer said that, who's the acting Assistant Attorney General for the Environment and Natural Resources. Similarly, looking now down to a local level here in Thailand, there is a new group of Thai elite rangers called the King of Tigers, who've started this last week a comprehensive strategy to combat poaching and smuggling protected animals and plants, and is intended to be replicated throughout Southeast Asia and in Africa, says freelance Mark Bowman on the group's first mission. Let's take a look at this. This is from VOA, a quick interview on these guys.
A suspected timber poacher is nabbed inside a national park in Thailand, but 6 accomplices managed to vanish back into the tropical forest. Apprehending this one Cambodian hardly impacts the critical loss of Thailand's flora and fauna from poachers. But it is a historic success for Operation Bloodwood, a first of its kind mission in steep bamboo-thickened terrain by a team called King of Tigers. Elite rangers in this new special response unit of Thailand's National Parks Department underwent a grueling 6-week training course before their first mission. Armed with HK-33 assault rifles and satellite communications equipment, they faced poachers touting AK-47s, who have killed about 50 Thai park rangers in the past 4 years. Unit leader Inprasert Noom Palachai says the King of Tigers' orders are to capture, not kill, to get intelligence about the illegal networks.
The smugglers from Cambodia have superior weapons to ours, so we have to be cautious and try to arrest them without armed clashes. We absolutely do not intend to hurt or kill anyone, but if we have no other choice, we will use our weapons to save our lives and to better serve our country.
There is a surging demand, especially in China, for the dwindling supplies of this species of reddish-brown timber. Officials say 1 cubic meter of Siamese rosewood is sold to furniture makers for up to $90,000. The new team's training was conducted by Freeland, a 13-year-old international organization trying to halt human and wildlife trafficking. It is funded by the U.S. government and others. Freeland's Mark Bowman says the formation of the King of Tigers heralds a comprehensive strategy intended to be replicated throughout Southeast Asia and in Africa.
We've found that if we concentrate our efforts on one unit, train them up to be at a high level to be able to do operations on both land and sea, then also train them how to instruct, then this team can then go around the country into hot spots, train up local rangers and also assist them in operations.
But the biggest initial hurdle to overcome in Thailand's parks is adequate funding.
A lot of the staff members here, their salary is very low, so there's not a lot of incentive, morale breaks down, so a lot more funding is required.
A task force will target for 4 months rosewood poachers in this protected natural habitat. The specially trained rangers of the King of Tigers will be an integral part of that operation. Steve Herman, VOA News, Pangsita National Park, Thailand.
Great news there. And of course, Freeland, the organization that's been coordinating and training these park rangers for Operation Bloodwood, are the same group that we've been working with here on Phuket to ban shark's fin soup and shark's fin sales across restaurants and hotels. There still are a number of hotels in Thailand that continue to serve shark's fin soup. And looking at my Twitter account this week, you can follow me on Indigo Nick. I noticed that Fin Free Thailand, who came down to Phuket and supported the operation to ban shark fin on Phuket, actually made a public announcement that Crown Plaza Bangkok, Plaza Athene, Hilton Hotels, the Sukhothai and Labua Hotels in Bangkok all continue to serve shark's fin soup, and their recommendation is to avoid these hotels if you care about oceans and marine life. And lastly, in Thai news, Thailand continues to experience its largest dengue epidemic in more than 2 decades, with a record number of people infected so far this year. Been 126 fatalities, and indeed, so far, over 136,000 cases of dengue fever have been confirmed so far this year, with the highest concentration of cases in and around the capital Bangkok and the northern province of Chiang Mai. Health officials have said that unseasonably wet and warm weather due to climate change has made the situation particularly bad this year, reporting a more than 50% increase in infections compared to 2012. Dengue is transmitted by the bite of an Aedes mosquito infected with any one of 4 types of dengue virus. Symptoms typically range from a mild to high fever, with severe headaches, muscle pain, and rash. There's currently no approved vaccine or specific drug treatment for the virus. Current approaches to treating the condition are focused on alleviating the symptoms. Thailand's Public Health Ministry says it's trying to contain the outbreak through nationwide fumigation campaigns to eradicate the mosquito breeding grounds, public awareness campaigns in rural communities, and newly set up operation centres around the country to coordinate with provincial health officers. There is a misconception that dengue is a jungle disease, but actually it's more prevalent in heavily populated areas. Rapid urbanisation in Thailand and a change in weather patterns have contributed to the alarming spike in cases. I'll also say that here on Phuket, the Health Ministry have been, for the last 3 years, involved with a campaign with SEEK to combat dengue slightly differently, and that is to reduce the amount of garbage and litter on the sides of the roads. Plastic bags actually in roadsides collect water, breed mosquitoes, and therefore encourage dengue fever. So by reducing plastic bag use, by reducing roadside litter and keeping our island looking clean, indeed will go a long way to reducing it here on our own island. There we are. Nick Anthony back in just a few moments to wrap up for today's Going Green show.
The 80s, 90s, noughties and now. Live 89.5.
And that's about it for Going Green for this Saturday, the 9th of November. The time is now 5 to 4. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's a bit grey out there, and indeed it is a little rainy, so do take care on the roads. But before I do wrap up, I had a couple of extra things to say, and that was, firstly, there is a very good article in the online version of the Phuket News, talking about our water issues here on Phuket, and officials are talking about a massive pipeline connecting Suratani with Phuket. Of course, we do have a problem in that Phuket doesn't have rivers. Everything is reservoir-based, and with the growth in Phuket, we have major issues of shortage on a regular basis. The couple of things that the government is also initiating is water use, education. I expect prices also will continue to rise for water, as we've seen particularly in the private sector. So we need better infrastructure, higher prices, and better education. Water is a resource, and indeed it's very rare on the island, so treat it carefully. This week coming up, there is going to be an international conference at PSU, that's local university. The conference is a second international one, and it's talking about specifically this one, multidisciplinary studies on sustainable development. Quite an exciting conference for these guys, talking about hospitality and tourism, international studies, science, engineering, and technology. You can go to their website, or indeed you can go through to myseek.org, click over to the Going Green show, and you'll find all the information about that program. This week coming up, we've seen a little bit of trash coming with this rain the last few days, and indeed, given the rains over the next 2 or 3, next week beaches will continue to need cleaning. There is 2 cleanups scheduled for Tuesday. One is on the very south end of the Kamala Beach, in front of the Kamala Temple. That'll take place at 9 a.m. next Tuesday. And the second cleanup will take place on the north end of Kamala Beach. That'll be at 10 a.m. So come and join me at 9 a.m., south end of Kamala Beach, and then we'll trundle up to the north end everybody very welcome. The Green Club's doing a fantastic job. There was a meeting last week of the Patong Municipality and SEEK, as well as Institute Hotels and other Green Clubs, initiating the Patong Green Club. And next up will be the Maikau Green Club. Great news. It's growing around the island. 2014 will be a much better coordinated approach to marine litter than Phuket has ever seen. It's critical we keep our oceans clean. It's critical we keep our beaches clean. We are an island blessed with some of the most natural beauty on the planet, and it's really up to all of us to ensure that we take care of it as best we can. Do stay tuned. Next Saturday, Going Green again, number 99. We have 2 more shows coming up. I'll have a very important show on the 23rd of November, Going Green 100 with a special guest, and I'll announce that next weekend. And from then we're going to integrate Going Green into all of the studio's productions, news broadcasts. We'll integrate Green more into the Phuket news and stories, and just let people know a little bit more easily know about what's going on around the island. Do stay tuned for 89.5 this weekend. We've got some fabulous music coming up. After the Going Green show is Saturday Sounds from 4 till 6 with non-stop music. You've then got Saturday Night Fever coming on from 6 till midnight. As they say, it's a walk down memory lane with the best dance music from the past and today. So start your Saturday nights off with the Saturday Night Fever show. Tomorrow morning, Breakfast Classified will be 9 till 11, playing the best of breakfast segments, reading out the TPN Classifieds, weather, etc. 11 till 2 o'clock, Jason will be on with the Sunday Brunch. Do tempt your taste buds with 3 hours of gastronomic highlights from around the island. In the afternoon tomorrow, 2 to 5 p.m. is the Asian Pop 40 with Dom Lau. That's a repeat of the week's countdown of Asia's most downloaded songs. Andy Saunders on with Mellow Moments 5 till 7 p.m. And then the Chill Factor from 7 till 9. Continuing in the same vein, from 9 o'clock until midnight will be the Sunday Chill, one of my favourite shows of the week. So do stay tuned this weekend to 89.5. Get out and enjoy the island. Take care on the roads, particularly with the rain out there. And we'll look forward to talking to you next Saturday. Thanks again for listening. Be green, stay green, and let's look after Phuket, our beautiful spot. Next up, I've got for you Cure, Just Like Heaven. And I'd like to say that unfortunately this week I lost my dog, Princess Sausage. Been a very sad week, but I read a lovely story about something called the Rainbow Bridge. And indeed, I will see Sausage again. If you've lost a pet, do a search on the Google for Rainbow Bridge. It's a lovely story, and it gives you some hope, some confidence to know that you'll see your loved ones again.